Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Hello, hello. Alright, welcome back to the True Crime Lounge podcast. I do have a YouTube channel that you can go and check out. I also have a Patreon and a merch shop that you can go and help and support it as well. And what is going on with my hair? Just got out of the shower too, guys. So, anyway, I have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Now, let's dive into today's episode of OD Irony. On this season of the TCL podcast. I can't believe we're over halfway through. I think it's what, episode 7 now? That's crazy right there. Um, I will announce the theme of season 4 in our final, in our 10th, in our finale episode of this season. So be prepared for that. I'm excited for it. It's gonna be close to home for me. Um, Tell me what you think season 4 is probably going to be, sis. So, given what you know about me so far, given what you know. But today, we're going to be talking about Edgar Cooke. Why does that name sound so familiar, you might ask? Well, he's known as you might recognize the name called the Night Caller. Yeah. But he is characterized as an unusual serial killer because his methodology is like his very random, like no clear choice of victims. So, like he doesn't so that's what makes it random, like he doesn't go and like, oh, choose just women of this age, height, color, whatever. His victimology is at least known 8 victims. And like I said, he did not have an actual method of killing, and his methods can range from shooting, stabbing with a knife, and strangulation. In on October 26, 1964, he was executed in Fremantle Prison. So, Cooke was nicknamed the Night Stalker from 1958 to 1963 as he terrorized the city of Perth, Western Australia, by committing 22 violent crimes, 8 of which resulted in deaths. Cooke was born February 25, 1931, in Victoria Park, in the suburb of Perth, and was the eldest of 3. As a child, his father showed no passion toward his oldest and only son, and would often become a victim of his father's alcoholic addiction, resulting in beatings for no reason. Cooke was beaten by fathers when he tried to protect his mom from his dad's violent outrage, and he had been bullied in school for his impediment of a hair lip and a cleft palate. Although whether this contributed to his later crimes is unknown. The questions left him with a slight facial deformity, and he spoke in a mumble. Cooke later served 18 months in jail for burning down a church after he rejected an choir audition. Yeah, that's something, right? Oh, I got rejected from choir audition. Let me go burn down a church. This is healthy, right? Not healthy at all. Anyway, at the age of 21, he joined permanent military forces, but was discharged 3 months later after it was discovered that before he enlisted, he had a series of convictions of theft, breaking, entering, and arson. A year later, on October 14, 1953, he married Sarah Levin when he was only 22 and she was 19. She was a waitress at the Methodist Church in Cannington. Together they have 7 children. Whew. Like, wow. Okay, let's dive into his murders, shall we? Alright. His strange killing spree involved a series of seemingly unrelated hit-and-run stabbing, stranglings, and shooting which had Perth completely terrorized. And this was unusual because most serial killers do have a known MO. This one, he was just very random with it. But his behavior was inconsistent and bizarre, and the various shootings had been carried out with several different rifles. Victims have had been stabbed with knives, scissors, and hit and run with an axe. But one victim was shot dead after being left at the door. Several were killed after walking while Cooke was robbing their homes. Two were shot while sleeping without their homes being disturbed. After stabbing one victim, he got lemonade from the refrigerator and sat there with and furnished a drink. Another victim was strangled with a cord from her light bedside lamp. Her dead body, raped, then dragged to the neighbor's lawn, where she was violated with an empty whiskey bottle, and was left cradled in her arms. In the 1960s, people often left their keys in their cars, ignition overnight. Why? Some people still do that. And it's like, I really would not advise that. But anyway, this was the 60s, right? So Cooke was still at car, almost every night returning it before the owner awoke. It was later discovered that the cars were involved in several hit and runs and had been returned without the owners realizing they had been stolen. Cooke was to later claim that he just wanted to hurt people. During the police investigation, more than 30,000 males over the age of 12 were fingerprinted, and more than 60,000 .22 rifles were located and tested and fired. Cooke was finally caught after a rifle was found hidden in a bush in August 1963, and ballistic tests proved that the gun had been his and been used in the murder of Shirley MacLeod. Police returned to the location and tried a similar operable rifle to bush with a fishing line, constructing hide, in which police waited for the owner to collect it, which Cooke did 17 days later. So when he was captured, he confessed to numerous crimes, including 22 violent crimes, 8 murders, 14 attempted murders, and he was convicted on a specimen charge of murdering John Lindsay Sturkey, one of Cooke's five Australia Day in 1963 shooting victims. In his confession, he demonstrated an exceptionally good memory of detail in his crimes, irrespective of how long ago he had committed these offenses. For example, he confessed to more than 250 burglaries, and he was able to detail exactly what he took, including the number and denominations of the coins that he had stolen from each location. So what about his conviction and his execution? Well, the other murder confessions, including Jillian Brewer, Rosemary Anderson, and Forrestdale Beamish, and John Button. I almost said John Dutton. Oh my gosh. I know. Like, the only reason I watched... Okay, I'm gonna get off topic for a second. The only reason I actually like Yellowstone is because Beth. Come on now. Her personality can put someone in their place. See, plus Rip's not bad to look at, right? Right. Okay, anyway. Back to the episode, shall we? Cooke's confession were referred to in appeals by Beamish and Buttons, but in Buttons' case, which was her first, although Cooke had given details by the police that the only killer would have known, little credence was given to Cooke's testimony in the vehicle. Cooke claimed that he had used an external steel sun visor. And the appeal judge cross-referenced the evidence with that of the Button appeal. So West Australian Chief Justice Sir Albert Wolff called himself a villainous, unscrupulous liar, and the prosecution claimed that both confessions were an attempt to prolong his own trial. Pleading not guilty on the grounds of insanity, at trial his defense lawyers claimed that he suffered from schizophrenia, but the claims were dismissed when the director of the State Mental Institute Service testified that he was sane, and the state would not allow an independent psychiatric specialist to examine Cooke. So Cooke was convicted of willful murder November 28, 1963, after a 3-day trial by jury in the Supreme Court of Western Australia before Justice Virtue. That's a really interesting name for a justice right there. So he was sentenced to death, and despite having grounds to an appeal, ordered his lawyers not to apply, claiming that ki- he had killed and deserved to pay for what he had done. 10 minutes later, before the sentence, he carried Cooke swore to the Bible, renewing that his rejected claim that he had been the killer of Julian Brew and Rosemary Anderson. Cooke was the last person to be hung in the state of Western Australia on October 26, 1964. So, and Cooke is buried in Fremantle Cemetery above the remains of child killer Martha Wendell. They didn't want to talk about her in one episode. I can't remember if she's on my list or not. But who was hanged in Fremantle Prison in 1909 and was the last woman to be hung in Western Australia. What about the wrong men in this case? Well, 2 other Australians were convicted of crimes later attributed to Cooke. Daryl Beamish, a deaf mute convicted in 1961 and 1959 for the 1959 murder of Julian McPherson Brewer, a wealthy woman originally from Melbourne, and he served 15 years despite Cooke's 1963 confession to the crime. His conviction was squashed in 2005, and evidence pointed to Cooke being the killer. John Button, who was jailed for 5 years for manslaughter to the death of his girlfriend, Rosemary Anderson, a conviction that was squashed in 2002, after the evidence proved Cooke was the killer. Oh my gosh, these men had years of their life that they will never get back. That's the sad thing right there. So, there has been several media with this case as well. There was a memoir called A Sharknet by Robert Dew, the Nedlands Monster, the Wakely Award. So, but it's just messed up. He was a murderer that was born in Victoria Park, Perth. Like, but I just want to know his personal life, and this is the information I do have on that. He was the eldest of 3. He was a native-born shop assistant, and his wife was from Scotland. His mom was from Scotland. I wonder how they ended up in Australia. But yeah. Oh my gosh, this case is just crazy right there. As much as, what do y'all think of it? I'm curious to know. Alright, that's it for today's episode. I will see y'all next time. Don't forget to comment what you think season 4 is going to be and everything else. I'll see y'all next time.